Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's TIA Lunch and Learn webinar, Why Digitalization Can Benefit Your Freight Brokerage During a Recession Market. My name is Anthony, and I'm the Education Manager here at TIA, as well as your host for today's webinar. To begin, we're going to cover some housekeeping items for everyone. First, I'll read through TIA's antitrust statement. Discussion, comments, and presentations during TIA functions must not 1, refer to any past, present, or future rates, prices, or anything related thereto. 2, include any reference to marketing strategies. 3, include any discussion of boycotts of any person, product, or firm. Or 4, inhibit any members' employees from discussing employment with other member companies. Additionally, things you hear during the meeting that are confidential and private to TIA should not be shared publicly without its prior consent or used against or in competition with TIA. Next up, for questions during the webinar, we have 2 options for you to choose from. The first, both are located in the Zoom control panel. And the first option you have is the Q&A button, and the second option you have is the chat button. Please submit your questions as you think of them for the live Q&A session towards the end of the webinar, where our panelists will attempt to answer your questions as best to their abilities. Submit them as you think of them in either box. Just keep in mind that if you submit a question in the Q&A box, no one but you and our presenters will see your question, whereas if you use the chat box, everyone in attendance of the webinar will see your message. Additionally, please note that due to the subject matter of this webinar, we may run a bit longer than our originally scheduled allotment of time, but we will do our best to stick to ending at 1 p.m. Eastern. Lastly, as a reminder, this webinar will be recorded and available for review within 24 hours. You will receive an email with instructions on how to access the recording using your TIA account. And with that, I will turn it over to our presenters. Thank you.
Hi, welcome back to another TIA webinar with Zuum app. I myself is Anthony Petitte. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Marketing over at Zuum app based out of Irvine, California. And with me today, we have Matt Tabatabai and David Boatwright. Matt is the founder and COO of Zuum, and David is our guest speaker. He's a Chief Business Development Officer over at Globus. And we'll go ahead and give some introductions and jump right into the presentation.
Perfect. Thanks, Anthony. So I'll go first. Matt Tabatabai, as Anthony said, and as we heard early on from the host, this is a hot topic, so excited to talk about it. Sounds like we'll try to keep it at an hour. But as far as my background, I'm the co-founder and COO of Zuum. I've, have extensive experience in logistics, primarily from the shipper perspective. Prior to Zuum, I was in some big Fortune 500 companies that were pretty much involved on the procurement side of the house. So a lot of the pain points I experienced before we started Zuum was from that shipper perspective. How do we, make that procurement process easier? So back in 2016, when we started Zuum, our goal was to find a way to bring shippers, brokers, carriers, give them the technology that they can basically speak the same language and be on the same platform. And that's where the story starts. I primarily do the business operations side of the house, working on bringing essentially the day-to-day of the business from the operations to the sales side of the house. And I'll hand it off to David so he can introduce himself.
Thanks, Matt and Anthony. Really pleased to be a part of this discussion and the invitation from Zuum. I represent business development for Globus America. Globus is a publicly traded company, actually, in Korea. We're headquartered globally in Seoul, Korea. Our North America, or should I say the Americas headquarters, are based in Irvine, California. I sit in Atlanta, Georgia. Primarily, Globus was started 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, as a 2PL logistics firm for Hyundai and Kia and Mobis, the Hyundai and Kia automotive brands badges that you probably recognize. And then Mobis being an auto parts, after parts provider. Over those 20 years, and the fact that we manufacture in over 4 continents and do inbound and outbound logistics, over the last 2 years, Globus has now changed to a plan of providing 3PL logistics as well to not only automotive companies and other automotive OEM badges, and also third-party logistics to non-automotive.
Well, thank you very much for giving out that information, David. Do appreciate it. And I'm sure our guests appreciate it as well. I think now we're going to go ahead to the next slide and start talking about this presentation. David, if you can go to the next slide.
I think we lost them.
Did we lose David already? It's okay.
Let's see, do we have access to the slide here? I guess David has control.
Oh, we're experiencing some technical difficulties, but we'll be hopefully right back. I know it's recording right now. We've officially lost David.
So I can dig in as the slides come back up, Anthony, if that's okay.
That's okay.
So I think just going into our story a little bit of what Zuum is, as I said in my bio, Zuum essentially looks to connect shippers, brokers, carriers. We feel that the industry is super fragmented. If you look at the space, shippers, especially the 20% top shippers that have the volume, are using some form of technology for procurement. They may have SAP Oracle, or they may have some other versions of technology. Brokers and carriers, especially the call it the mid-market or smaller brokers and carriers, are a little bit further behind in terms of technology adoption. And that's why the topic today of digitization is so important, because for where Zuum stands, at least as at our core vision, we believe that the way we can solve the industry's pain points is to essentially help brokers, carriers also digitize and bring the platform that brings shippers, brokers, carriers on one unified platform, as we call it, the logistics super platform. And we're very proud of the technology we built, which essentially gives each of those parties what they need to be able to work with each other. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as we go into the main topic of the day in digitization, why it's important for brokers as we go into interesting climate in the market. I see David's back. So we lost you for about 2 minutes.
I am so very sorry. And so I will just, there's why the infrastructure and networking is so important these days, to be able to dynamically adjust to situations. But I won't spend much more time in our background for Globus. Suffice to say that we are very interested in developing a strategic relationship with Zuum. We continue to use their products internally, and we are finding that they're going to likely fit many of the needs that we have, especially in over-the-road markets here in the domestic part of the United States, where it's so hyper competitive and complex. So I'll certainly add more comments as we move along. Sorry about that again, Matt.
No worries. I think we need the presentation back up.
Sure.
We lost that as well.
Okay, let's get that share the screen. Okay, let's see if we could do that. Okay. How is that? Okay.
All right. Okay, well, so we'll dive in to a little bit of information here, if you guys can hear me. We talk about managing the peak season in a recession. So it's an interesting market, right? I mean, there's a lot of indices out there, which I'm sure some of you are deep into, that give you data on what's going on in the market. So there's certain things that are still relative to where we were 2 years ago strong. And there's other indicators of the market slowing down, and obviously inflation with lower consumer demand can create an interesting environment for brokers. I see rising prices of trucks on here. I think overall what I've been seeing as far as the CAS freight index is that that may not be that overall pricing is higher, but we are trending down, and the market's softening up, as everybody's probably seeing out there, which means being a broker is harder unless you find ways to essentially digitize and get creative to find the right verticals and the right market to expand your business. So we'll dive into that, but I want to ask David as well as Anthony, if you guys want to chime in on what you're seeing in the market and what you forecasting in a sense for the near future, at least.
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony. Do you want to start?
Sure, of course. Yeah, absolutely. So, as of most people know, if you woke up this morning and you looked over at your equities, right, in the markets, the stocks actually opened up lower today, with the Fed's expected to major hike the interest rates. So what you're seeing in just the overall economic market is just the fact that there's a lot of rising costs right now, which is causing inflation. Obviously, what you can see here is lower consumer demand. What I've seen in the market in the trucking side, and I do agree with you, Matt, that everything is beginning to soften up. I really do see that there is there's a lot, and it always comes down to supply and demand, but there's a lot more demand in the transportation logistics industry than there is anywhere else right now. So that's a really good thing. It's positive. I did do some research as well and found that we are at historically about 1% of the GDP is consistent with 2 to 3% freight deterioration. So if we're kind of going down 2 to 3%, that's a lot better than what the rest of the market's going down right now. It looks like that number will kind of subside and reach 0%. There's a lot of optimism right now in the industry. They're seeing that just because of trucking and how it's essentially in the direction that it's going, I should say. They're seeing that there's a lot more momentum out there, and that by the end of next year, this could be short and shallow recession in the trucking market.
Anthony, I tend to agree with you that if you take a look at really pre-pandemic and where the market looks to be going right now, that the severe dip in demand that we had, of course, due to COVID, and then, of course, the surge that happened as folks had really pent up demand as the COVID kind of receded, that the demand certainly dramatically increased. But if you kind of take out that window of the last couple of years and look at where 2018, 2019, and now 2022 and 23 look like, it actually is more of what I'd call a normal smooth growth. So I think that there's a lot of things still working out from the again, COVID, and of course we've got global geopolitical issues that are going on. But I do think if you look at several of the companies, especially our customers, those consumers, they still are pretty much at all-time lows in terms of unemployment. So maybe they're ratcheting back from the I guess the excessive demand and the recession. In my perspective, at least, is that it could be a thin one as opposed to a deep one.
Thank you, David.
Next slide.
So just going into managing the peak season in a recession, we talked about the pain points of inflation. I think one of the main things here, as you look at things on how you can actually reduce the risk for your brokerage, and you may have different goals. Some may have a goal of making sure their bottom line is solid. Some may be still in growth mode and trying to expand and take market share. For each of those parties, there's different strategies you can take. Obviously, the market has shifted a lot. So being a in a state of massive top line growth is a little bit harder. But with technology, I think specifically focusing on areas of let's reduce OpEx and bring technology that can automate that, reduce the number of headcount you need to operate the business, increasing the loads per day, which is really important. I think standard in the industry is 5 or 6 loads per day, depending on what type of freight or business you're running, and finding ways to go from defense, which I call, reducing OpEx and bringing efficiency, to actually going into generating more revenue overall and increasing your return on investment. There are really good strategies right now in the market, and we're going to go through that in a little bit. But how do you acquire more business? So on this topic, again, just fielding a question to David and then Anthony on what you're seeing in terms of, like, if you had to prioritize what would be the top thing for, let's say, a small to medium brokerage, what would be the area of focus you think would be most important for them?
Yeah, and I think great question, Matt. And I think that how do you acquire business in this environment, and how do you do it efficiently? And as we're seeing, I think really in any business, it's a lot about how are you using technology, and information is so valuable in this market. And so and then also watching the trends of whether we are going into a full-blown inflationary period as well. And so some of the tools like that Zuum offers, whether you can look at the digital marketplace and see what marketplaces are doing in pricing, and then being able to efficiently acquire that pricing so that you can serve your customers, and then ultimately win more business. It's just, I would say, paramount for small brokers. And so having those tools and being powered by a platform like Zuum, I believe is really scalable for whether you're looking at something like Glovis or a small company that is looking at being able to maximize its reach.
No, I think those are all good points, Matt and David. And I like to take a different approach on this. I think especially during this type of market, with inflation rising, and obviously efficiency is very important. But I like to look at it because I have a background in executive search and recruiting. I also want to encourage the small to medium-sized brokerages or trucking companies, shippers, et cetera, to really retain. And I keep on saying that because it's really important to retain your employees. It's important to retain your partnerships during this time period. You want to make sure that the partnerships that you have already are moving consistently in the right direction. You want to make sure that you're continuing business with them. Obviously, a happy customer is going to be making referrals, right, to other customers as well. So I think that as we acquire more business, you're also retaining the customers that you acquire. Those customers, if they're happy with, whatever technology or data or information you're providing, you're also going to keep those customers as well as getting brand new customers. And that also obviously results the same with employees, right? Having the same employees, keeping those employees, those heavy hitters are going to actually help your company grow, especially in a recession market.
And I think that's a great point, Anthony. So acquiring more business doesn't necessarily mean having to get more customers. It's doing, executing with the customers that you have and giving them great satisfaction, right? And being able to quote unquote plug and play with them, right? And so that's what customers are looking at. They want to reduce their, cost of doing business with someone. And so again, I think that just to emphasize that, we look at things that way as well. So
great point. Thanks, David. Next slide. All right, just going to go through these next 2 slides pretty quickly here. I mean, if you guys see this tender volume data from FreightWaves, we're a partner of FreightWaves. I want to just give a quick shout out to them, and Sonar, a great product that is integrated into our platform. I think as David touched on earlier, data is king, right? Having data at your fingertips where you can actually understand what's happening in the market and what's happening within your business is critical. So looking at tender volumes year over year, as you guys see, the volumes have dropped from the previous years as it started to 2018, 2019 were obviously with what happened in the market, the lowest tender volumes. And then we had 2020 to 2021, it's pretty high. And as you see this year, it's starting to trend downwards, about 34% less volume than the previous year. So this is, as you know, tender volumes are the biggest indicator of freight market health. And overall, we're still strong versus 2018, 19, and some, and it has its ebbs and flows. So we're still relatively in a good space. And 2022 was the first year in 5 years with negative growth. And as you see here, decreased tender volume. So 34% decrease year over year is pretty significant. Let's go to the next slide. Tender rejections, obviously another indicator of health. As you see, the tender rejections saw a 3.5%, 3.5x decrease in spot market opportunities year over year. And obviously less opportunities drive prices down. So if you see the volumes dropping here, and from 2018, 2019, we were at 5.35 low tender volume. Overall 2020, 2021 was 19.8, and it dropped down to 4.34 low tender volume in 2021, 2022. So
if I could interject, I think this follows some of the comments I believe that we were making and alluding to in the beginning, which is if you look at these last two slides and you take out the 2019 to 2021 and go from 2018 to 2019, that increase of, volume for tenders is going up nicely, right? And then if you take, go to the next slide and look at, from 535 to 435, that means less are being rejected. So again, taking out that whipsawing that happened because of COVID and all the supply chain pieces that one could, argue is this recession, inflationary pressure going to be, how strong is it going to be? It might not be as strong as others think if you kind of connect those two and take out those points.
Yeah, I just want to add to, obviously we're looking at this data, and again, I think our great partnership over at Freightway Sonar. If you look at obviously 2020, 2021, all the way up to 2022. Yeah, there might be a loss between, or difference between the change year over year in tender rejections. But I do remain bullish on a lot of this, right? I remain bullish in regards to also looking at the freight price index. It's actually increasing. So if we look at 2023, I can almost guarantee you, and again, I'm not going to quote the guarantee, but I can almost guarantee you personally that there's going to be some growth. They're going to be seeing some upward trends in terms of obviously getting more freight, as well as seeing those tender rejections decrease.
And to your point, Anthony, I think it was the manufacturing MPI is at September was 50.2. It was a slight drop from 50.9 in August, but overall still in growth mode, which is, validation to both your points there.
Absolutely.
Let's continue on. So how do we manage the peak season in a recession? Just continuing on to the solution, obviously offering several solutions, allowing users to solve many transportation related problems is really important. So if you look at the 4 pillars of freight technology that need to be there for you to, really operate optimally, you need a cloud-based system. It's the 21st century, the word IT should be out of everyone's mouth by now. Just being frank, right now, it's all about moving to agile systems and really making everything cloud-based. That is the future, and having real-time visibility on your assets, knowing where the trucks are is paramount. Intelligent carrier network, understanding where that illuminating the dark capacity, having access to more capacity, and being able to digitize so you have the ability to aggregate capacity at a much faster rate will give you that intelligent carrier network you need. And you also need the tools to improve your business intelligence, the data coming into a system that's AI based, that's giving you actionable intelligence to run your business smoothly. So for the sake of time, I'm going to continue to the next slide. I believe we have only 20 minutes here. So I'm going to skip that one as far as going deeper, but we'll stop in a couple of slides. So talking about a cloud-based system and its benefits, obviously having the ability to access data more rapidly, enabling your business to identify and offer carriers their loads much faster using a carrier bid and tender tool. And again, the AI piece of that, and identifying the right carriers at the right time, is really important. Essentially, eventually you can optimize not only your routes, but make sure there's no empty miles as you start getting that capacity network built, which is really important. Automated invoicing, again, taking out the pen paper. I know a lot of people were still, sending and receiving checks in the mail. Now, again, getting ahead of that and having all that technology based, removing pen, paper, Excel sheets, and making that invoicing and the accounting all automated is really important. APIs, integrations, and plugins, just talking about a lot of the old world of EDI, having EDI API converters, making it really easy to plug into people and really integrate with people rapidly is important. And why is it important for the folks right now that are on this call that may not have technology? If you do have technology, you are able to play with not only smaller smaller shippers, but also bigger shippers. It's easier for you to take a platform and hand it to the small shipper and be able to play with them right off the bat. It's easier for you to win business from the bigger shippers because now you're a digital solution. You have the ability to integrate with them easily. And obviously there's a trust in terms of service and support that comes with having the systems to operate a business more smoothly. But I want to stop there, and this is an important point. David, Anthony, if you guys want to chime in real quick.
Yeah, I think that these are all things that we continue to thematically talk about across the conversation, whether it's, and I know for us, when we're looking at our customer set, which may be larger than some of the folks who are listening online, the smaller brokers, but I really do believe we have the same issues. It's just at a different scale. And in today's world, you need to be able to speak common languages and connect quickly through, the last point of the integrations and the plugins. Also the automated invoicing. So as you scale, that becomes more and more complex, and you don't want that to take out of your business in managing the AP and accounts payable and AR, and of course working capital. That cash flow is very important to your business, and so if that can be automated, that's another step in the right direction. And then having some of the nimbleness, where I think Anthony and I agree that over the long term that we still remain bullish, but being able to be nimble to respond to what I'd call the tremors that will happen until that long-term growth happens. You need to be able to have a tab on the market quickly, and it's no longer, I'll age myself, having the Rolodex that you rely upon, the paper Rolodex, right? And then being able to offer that at a competitive way, in more efficient, in a lower cost basis, all of these things align for us. And so we are finding that looking at Zuum, whether you're just a small brokerage or you're looking at, scaling over time, that it's got a platform that can scale.
Yeah, you know what, David, I first of all, I could not have said it better. So I'll just keep this short and sweet. In my last business, I've seen the same thing, with a lot of these old school type of businesses. They keep everything in their hard drive. I've seen situations where the hard drive crashes. I've seen situations where, they leave a laptop, believe it or not, in a hotel room and not be able to get it back. So it's like to have everything accessible, all the data and information that you either store or that you're trying to get from other sources, to be in the cloud is something that, of course, in today's century that you need to be in, right? If you can access it from anywhere, you don't have to utilize your own laptop. You can be in a library, you could be in a, you can be on the plane on your phone. So having this information, this actionable intelligence is crucial in today's day and age. And just to conclude here, having the automated invoicing is great, because then you can send this directly to, let's say, any of your teams, your payroll teams, your finance teams. You can send automated invoicing to your customers, your partners, and it's going to be there, whether you save it to your computer or not. So this is all really good information, and for companies to definitely get behind today.
Thanks, Anthony. Let's continue on. So real-time transportation visibility, I think this is pretty much everybody understands the importance of this. It does reduce, as you see, fewer penalties for you, as you know where trucks are, and you can easily understand what you need to do to make sure those service fails don't happen, especially with predictive ETAs. That's, I think, really important this day and age, is the old world of having to call in and check call trucks as they're going, and not knowing exactly, if you're not able to get a hold of the driver, where they are, has been something that's been a pain point for our industry for some time now. You don't have to worry about that with real-time visibility. You understand exactly where the trucks are. You can have good intelligence around when it's going to arrive, whether it's going to be arriving on time, or if it's behind schedule, and what you can do to help reduce that risk there. So that helps you obviously get better service levels. And to me, it's really important to be agnostic. So if you're able to give your carriers the ability to track them in what they're comfortable in, and have access or integration with multiple systems, and also easily being able to take that analog data with check calls and turning into digital data, it's really important. Also, you can, with some platforms, text message drivers, so you're not bothering them. So again, that having that multiple option opportunity to connect with people if they're not being tracked, whether with a visibility tool, is also another way to counter that. But let's go to the next slide. Intelligent carrier network. I think in a recession market, this is really important. It comes back to essentially, as we talk about driver shortages, I don't, necessarily say that there is a driver shortage. I think it's an ability to aggregate and get access to drivers and carriers is the bigger issue, in my opinion. If you have the right systems and you're able to aggregate and get access to a larger pool of carriers, then that issue of I can't find the truck goes away pretty quickly. It's just simple statistics. So if you have 700, 800,000 trucking companies, the quicker you get access to them and build relationship with the right carriers within that network, the quicker you can manage and essentially build those relationships to be able to run your business smoothly. So having the right system to build that from a technology standpoint is really important. David looks like he wants to speak about this.
Yeah, I know and I'm conscious of the time, but I do, in terms of my experience with Zuum, is that the building that network is more than just having transactions occurring on their platform. They do have a department that's going out and really speaking directly to those carriers and, trying to build those relationships in the background. So you as a user of their platform get that benefit. Now, have they probably talked to every single carrier that's on their network? I doubt it. And I'll let them speak for themselves. But the fact that when we really needed some specialized help given a particular project, we were able to get carriers that they had already vetted. So it's more than just the digitalization and the tools that they're providing. It's the infrastructure they're providing to make sure that the right carriers are on the platform and want to have stickiness. How do they get stickiness? And that makes the whole entire network more valuable, which makes it more valuable for customers of their products.
Thanks, David. Next slide. So again, just talking about the next pillar, the fourth pillar, business intelligence, which is really important. Having the ability to automate aspects of your business. As we talked about, we have systems for shippers, brokers, carriers. As you get the connected systems, we call that marketplace SaaS. Essentially, it's a full marketplace or full platform that gives you a lot of data, and that data gives you a lot of benefits, because as data is flowing between the veins of these different platforms, you can make better decisions and increase your profitability much easier. If you're giving a platform to a shipper and they're working with you directly, you're giving a platform to your carriers, you know where their trucks are, you know how to essentially help them manage their fleet and interact with you. That helps you save time and increase productivity quite extensively. And it also gives you higher service levels and a customer experience. And obviously it saves you a ton of money. Data is king. Essentially, when I look at some of the businesses we've touched and we've been able to bring efficiency to them, as we understood their freight network, it starts with that middle piece of, well, you're a broker, you need a system to manage your brokerage. Let's automate all the back office. Let's give you the tools to freight match and run the load from A to Z. Let's give you the tools to upload carriers and manage carriers. And then in the business intelligence part, as that data aggregates, you have tools that tell you your biggest losers, biggest winners in terms of lanes, how you're pricing, your win-loss ratio, tools to manage your sales team, your appointments, your workforce management. There's even gamification in there to essentially incentivize and reward employees. It's very deep. And I think that ultimately as a collective helps you bring the efficiency you're looking for. David, Anthony, you guys want to chime in on this?
I just wanted to say just one really quick comment is that I think the biggest thing with digitization and having the tools necessary, or at least another large benefit, is real time. Like actually having everything done in real time, right? Versus time and a half or not in enough time. So if it's in real time, you're going to get all this different information across all these market segments. So, you know, one of the things that we do here at Zuum is we work with all three market segments, the shippers, the brokers, and the carriers, and we can actually get live information in real time. That's really important to businesses. It's important to each prospective market segment. And so to have that type of information is going to provide better business intelligence to your partners, your customers, and then also with your in a carrier's perspective and with their drivers. So definitely real time is one of the things that I want to definitely see added on the benefits side.
Yeah, just quick. Yeah, and just quickly, you know, knowing that a partner like Zuum is working on these things, because, you know, this is, if you will, the, you know, internal plumbing, right, to make sure that this works smoothly. Whereas, you know, an enterprise like us would typically have to take on that and continually update. You know, that's part of the value of their products. So that's all I'll add, given the time frame that we have.
Thanks, David. Next slide. So I'm going to run through these next couple of slides quickly since we're running out of time. I wanted to showcase a little bit of the tech as well, and what that, again, the topic that we have at hand, what that technology does to help with that topic. But again, the benefits of digitization for freight brokers is, you know, obviously it's going to help you facilitate your accounting, planning, and dispatch, your load matching, and help you just get overall enhance your file management, asset management, fleet management becomes much more controllable, leading to an overall improvement in efficiency. That helps you reduce fuel use and improve attention to detail, ultimately saving both time and money, enhances communication. Digital economy is essential, ensuring the satisfaction of all parties concerned. And I think it's a big word right now. If you do share with your customer base that you're a digital freight brokerage, it not only helps you position with them better and win more business, but it also, in some ways, if you're looking to sell your business, gives you a higher valuation. Next slide.
Actually, and Matt, one quick point in here, and I think that it remiss not to mention it, is that it also gives you historical data that's easy to manipulate and really instead of just going by your gut, which I know a lot of us that's being successful and over time it's proven, but providing some analytics on that and maybe being able to test it and look where are the different directions, are the nuances. So that historical data and being able to manipulate it, I think is another benefit that people will see over time.
Thank you, David. As far as ROI, I think that's a big word, as we talked about. Everything comes down to ROI. What does it mean for your business? As you see here, on average, an average user of Zoom Super platform books 50% more loads per day. So if you're using and taking that platform for yourself, you can see that improvement for your business. You can develop a core carrier network and reduce your reliance on public load boards by at least 25%. It's important to try to move away from those public load boards, and our systems help you do that while still giving you connectivity to those external load boards, saving on the average of up to 33% on human capital costs, covering freight by your efficiency tools and workflow management. Reducing OpEx there and getting more efficiency on your brokerage is really critical, and that's something we've been very successful with our tech. Convert 30% of same day freight to pre-booking, saving you time and money and increasing your margins. I think this is a good point as well. Same day freight and pre-booking. Obviously, if a lot of times with reactive brokerages, you're putting things on the last day, you're winning business, and then on the very last day, you're covering stuff at sometimes we call it saltwater, right? Taking in saltwater freight, losing money. With technology, you can reduce that risk, obviously significantly, pre-booking in advance, matching things and understanding carriers that could take them on a more regular basis, and then obviously increasing your margins through that. Next slide. So again, digital technology is the key to fighting inflation in a recessionary market. Even while the price of essentials such as gas and food continue to climb, the cost of buying products online is reducing year in, year out. So digitizing in a freight brokerage leads to increasing productivity and efficiency, and obviously saves money and lowers the cost for consumers. Next slide. I just want to show you guys our modern architecture. I think this is really important. As we talked about early on, everything about digitization is about not just digitizing to the 1980s and 90s or using legacy solutions. It's bringing in the new agile end-to-end platforms that get your company the efficiency it needs. And what we've built from an architecture standpoint is not only modern, but it's end-to-end. So it's giving your shippers a platform to work with you, whether they're big enterprise and they're EDI, giving you a very easy connection to the enterprise. Whether it's small to medium sized businesses, you can give them a portal to work with you directly. You have the middle piece, the broker piece or freight forwarding piece, where you have the technology to do the A to Z that I mentioned. You have the agent portals where you can bring in agents if you wanted to. On the carrier side, the iOS, Android app to be able to work with your drivers and carriers. Essentially being able to upload PODs, giving them loads and a lot more, tracking them, which is really important. The branded carrier Zuum web for fleet management. And the two pieces that aren't here that's really important is, again, goes into how do you generate more business? Well, you want more shippers to give you business and you want more carriers to join your network. So we've created some very cool tools on that, which I won't talk about here, but if you're interested, you can reach out to us and we can share with you. That gives you the ability to expand your business much, much more rapidly. Next slide. So I want to showcase things since we're running out of time here. Very quickly, just running through some slides. So this is the broker posting page where you can post out loads to different marketplaces. As we talked about, you can put post into different load boards. You can connect to partners, and through this connectivity, you can essentially get a lot more business going as you post to different load boards, different sites, and bring business back to you through that connectivity. Next slide. The broker marketplace, again, a place where carriers can bid, which I think is really important, automating the bidding process, allowing the carrier to have the technology to bid as opportunities come in, pushing opportunities into a marketplace. Carriers bid, you accept the load, then it goes into your shipments where you can manage the load. Next slide. Booking a load, it's all about making it as easy as possible. So there's a single load and there's obviously multi-load situations. We've made it super easy in our platform. So not only can you auto-populate all these fields and then post out into the marketplace that you saw earlier, but you can also do multi-load tenders. You can do RFPs, all that built into this system, making it very user-friendly and easy to use. Next slide. Appointments, again, automating appointments is important for brokerages. So having a system to manage that, making sure your teams are assigned, you have anything that's at risk flagged, and essentially the workforce management of appointments built into this platform, so you can burn that down and make sure everything's covered as it should be with your appointments. Next slide. So the broker tracking screen, this is really important as well. As you see here, you want to know where the trucks are, and your ability to interconnect with Project 44, MacroPoint, ForkHeights, Zuum has its own tracking. It's all built into here. So you can see, you can easily track using the Zuum driver and see where the assets are. You can use any of the third parties there. And if for some reason none of the above are available, the driver is using a flip phone still for some reason or whatever, you can still log check call on the top right here and turn that analog data into digital. What doesn't show on this page is you can even call and text the driver through this platform, all of that captured in the system. Next slide. Managing shipments is super easy with our platform. As you see, you can easily have at your disposal for your operators the ability to see that top dashboard, what's been booked, what's in transit, what's at risk, what's been delivered. And you can easily sort through the shipments details there, finding what you need to find. You can post into different marketplaces if you need through this platform. And obviously you have all these tools to flag any sort of what we call fire tickets or anything like that, where there's any loads that are in jeopardy. All of that managed through this page and super easy from a user interface standpoint. Next slide. Dynamic smart rate. I think this is really important, getting control of your pricing. So having historical data on what's going on in your business as you upload your data and you collect more and more data. What are the rates, whether it's, dry van, flatbed, reefer, pickup location, drop-off location, as you see the top left. You can easily put that information in. You can put in, get all the data from your third party. As you saw, we have a partnership with Sonar and with others that can that are already integrated into our platform. You can pull that data in if you have their the subscription to those platforms. And as you get your pricing, you can submit the pricing into each quote. And that data, again, is going to be in the intelligence report. So as you start winning more business, you see your win-loss ratio, and you can optimize your pricing engine. It becomes smarter over time, helps you tune your business to what your goals are from a top line or bottom line. Next slide. Universal touch. I think, as you saw in the last slide, there was a lot of stuff on getting data on what's happening historically and what's happening through third-party data sources. But also it's important to give what we call, it's a little bit of art and science, giving your pricing managers the ability to pull in data based on what's happening today in the market. So you can use this to change pricing across your entire platform and make sure all your pricing people are getting things right. So whoever is your pricing lead, they could come in here and they could adjust based on what's happening dynamically in the market today. Florida is having a hurricane, whatever, something's going on. This particular lane for the next 2 days, the rates are going to be increased by 4%. It's got maps, it's got a lot of intelligence, something that's really helpful for brokers to get control of their pricing. Next slide. Carrier database. Again, we talked about building a good carrier network and having an intelligent carrier network. It starts with sourcing the right carriers. And then after you've sourced the right carriers, how do you manage that relationship? So what you see here is a carrier database where you can easily validate your carrier base, make sure they got all the credentials they need. And as you upload them into your system, their service levels are tracked. So there's a lot of details in here as far as what you can do in terms of carrier management. Not only upload them, but manage them, make sure their insurance is up to date, make sure their service levels are up to date, and you can even communicate through this platform with the carrier. Next slide. And again, carrier history data is here for you to, if you want to zoom into any of that information with particular carriers, seeing all the loads they've done, their total revenues, total expenses, their service levels, their profits, their average profit per load, and a lot more data. And we even have a rating system, if you see in the top right, that shows you can rate the carrier as well on how they operate, not only from the service level, but in terms of responsiveness and other factors. Next slide. Service reports, again, just digging in, every carrier that does business with you, you can have reports on their service levels, their service fails, whether it's due to whether it's their fault or it's some sort of an operator failure or whatever the reasons are, all that data is aggregated here for you to be able to optimize your relationship with the carrier and communicate with them. I think it's important to have a carrier relations team as service levels are not being met. You have communication with the carrier to keep them honest. I think it's really important on this one.
Excuse me.
Zoomanity. This so if you go into this next piece of gamification, as we talked about, we believe that incentivizing your staff is really important, and we've created gamification for you to be able to manage your staff. So giving you tools to not only have a lot of rewards, but sometimes you need to have a little bit of punishments in there too if they're not performing, if they're doing things like service fails, but making it fun. So not only are they rewarded for the right reasons, they have their commissions there, they level up, they get recognition and rewards, but you have to write OKRs, objective key results, to measure them. If they're a operator, are they covering loads, the right number of loads? Are they service failing? Are they getting drivers on tracking? Whatever those metrics are, you can adjust it in here and have that, which is really important. Next slide. I think we're almost out of time here, so I'm going to wrap up in 2 minutes here, then we can go to Q&A. Scoreboards, I mean, pretty self-explanatory. You can rank your team and create competition. Next slide. And this is the accounting billing pages. So you have your AR, AP, your billing, your invoicing, your QuickBooks integrations. We even have integrations in the works with NetSuite and others for bigger enterprises. So your full accounting process can be run through this platform. Next slide. And then document management, another important piece, as you are, building your third-party bill of lading and other documentation, all of that's branded to you, put into the systems. If there's a POD, the driver's using an app, they take a picture, it's cam scan technology, it turns into a PDF, is uploaded in the system. All of it available, easily downloadable, as you can see, or you can take that and email it to wherever you like. So document management being digitized, another valuable thing to make your operations a lot easier. And searching for previous carriers and external carriers, I think it's really important when you're pricing things and working with carriers, knowing which carriers you should be going back to, and that data is there. So there's suggested carriers that tell you, the system tells you should be going to, and you have an easy system to even blast out an email, call them, or push in specifically into the marketplace for those groups of people to bid on that, as you see here. And then external carrier databases are built into this as well. So you can go not only work with your own internal carriers, but you can expand into external carrier networks and bring them back to your platform. Mobile app, which I think is another important piece, very easy. I think we spent time essentially doing user studies with truckers for almost 6 months, where we sat down. I had the pleasure of doing that with one ride myself, where we sat with the drivers and got their feedback, and we wanted to make the driver app as easy as possible. So they're on the road, they're tired, they want to make sure it's as intuitive as possible. So we built this mobile app with tracking in it. As the drivers leave, it has geofencing. It automatically lets them know, hey, you've left location 1, whatever, and all this stuff, from the tracking to the PODs to them, if they're single owner operator, getting paid. All that stuff is in this app here. And if there's any sort of service fails, easily being able to press that button that David's pressing right there, and calling in to the appropriate party to help out. Next slide. Carrier view, rate con, and e-signatures. As you see here, I'm not going to spend too much time. We've digitized all this stuff here as well. Super easy flow between the different systems. Next slide. Carrier viewing and betting unload. Again, just as you see on the app here, you have the ability to view a particular opportunity. You can book it, or you could bid and counter with a counter offer. And on the broker side, they would essentially get that that offer back to them, and they could either accept or reject. You see it on the different pages here with the locations. Next slide. Automated shipper portal, another important piece, I think, for being able to give your shipper the ability to work with you one-on-one. Now we have deeper technology where you can give them, where they can operate their own business as well. But I think for what you need, you have to be able to give, especially the SMBs, a platform where they can easily work with you, get instant quotes from you. They can push bids to you, and they can see and track their loads with you as well, and get shipment reports. Really easy system, fully branded to you, that you can give to your shippers. We went a little bit over, guys, but we're there. We have a few minutes. I don't know if it's enough for a Q&A, but when we open up the field here, and sorry, David and Anthony, I just had to race through.
No.
So, totally fine.
And again, apologize for the initial snafu.
Yeah, I think there's just really quickly, we have a question from William Hatcher. He actually wrote it in the Q&A chat. It says, do we have a rep with FreightWaves via Zoom? So we can either type in the answer, or if he's still on, we can actually answer that question right now.
Yeah, I think if I understand the question, I mean, obviously we have, as far as with FreightWaves, we have Sonar as a partnership that's part of our platform now, that's interconnected with our platform. So that is the relationship we have with FreightWaves. I'm not sure if I understand the question, but I believe that's what's being asked.
Yeah, I think he's asking, I'll keep it short. I think he's asking if there was somebody in the middle that could essentially help him get set up with the FreightWaves. And so to answer that question, short and sweet, there's actually a book a demo button that we have sent out via an email campaign. If you want to go back, or we can send that directly to you, William, if you're still on, and then we can get you all set up with the FreightWaves team.
Yeah, and I see another question here from Dimitri. It says, any specific functionality related to Expedite and LTL? Yes, we have LTL built in. We also have Expedite functionality that's in there as well. So we'd be happy to showcase that if you'd like to see it at some point.
So William responded with a thanks. And again, I don't know how much time we have, but I just wanted to make an overall comment from, again, the Globus perspective. And when you look at big picture, I think for all of us, whether we're providing a logistics service or we're actually the customer of one, if you step back and look overall, there's a couple of very large companies that have really made our behaviors such that we expect to know when and where our deliveries are. And so you take that as a consumer of logistics and say the providers now are required to match that expectation if you want to participate in the future in direction of logistics. So having, again, the data in a manageable format. You can see the user interfaces that are very easy to intuitive to use, and the connectivity, and then of course the ability to manage the data. These are all things that are exciting for us as we work on our partnership with Zuum going forward, and being able to use it in multiple parts of our business.
Thank you for sharing that, David.
Thanks, David.
Sure.
Any other questions before we part ways here?
Might be two more.
I see there's also a separate chat here. Is there any questions?
I think that those are all the questions, Matt. Again, if anyone has any last minute questions, please feel free to send them in. If we don't get to it, we will email you a response. Matt, David, Anthony, if you all want to go over some key takeaways from today, feel free, and then we can wrap everything up. And if not, that's perfectly fine too.
Yeah, I'll leave the floor to David and Anthony since I went through the last few slides. If you guys want to leave any parting words, the only thing I'll say is if you have any questions, if anybody on the call has any questions, I think Anthony put the link, marketing@zoomapp.com. We'd be happy to answer any questions and really appreciate your time today. But I'd leave David and Anthony with any final parting words.
I think I'm all set here on my end. So I just want to say thank you for everybody that showed up today. We're really happy to have you on and talk to you more about the recession, obviously recession-proof market, as well as what technology and digitization can do for your business. So like Matt said, go ahead and just reach out to us, and on the chat, just you can reach out to marketing@zoomapp.com. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. And I would say, I think I already said my 2 cents on, what we see as the benefits at Globus, but if you want more, customer specific testimonial, certainly willing to, offer that in a one-on-one if folks want to talk more offline.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate it. Appreciate everyone's time. And thank you, Anthony, for setting this up. I think we'll hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anthony, David, and Matt. Thank you, Zuum, for hosting the webinar today. We really appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded and will be available within 24 hours. And with that, we will sign off. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you joining us today. And thank you again, Anthony, David, and Matt. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.